Is Temtem a Pokemon ripoff? That's what my viewers kept asking me when I live streamed Stress Test over this past weekend. I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm not a real Pokemon player. In fact, my only experience with Pokemon outside of Minecraft and Ark Survival mods is Pokemon Go, which I played a few months at its initial release. Here's the reasons why it actually deserves a better description than a ripoff. First of all, the definition of a ripoff is described as fraud or swindle, especially something that is grossly overpriced or an inferior imitation of something, which I can honestly say that I don't feel this product is inferior or overpriced. However, I do feel it's definitely an imitation. On the surface, Temtem appears to be everything you would expect from a Pokemon game. You start out as a young trainer and a game labels as an apprentice tamer who sets out to a university to learn all about Temtem, which are the collectible creatures you can catch and train for battle. This campaign or story allows you to progress through the game in a semi-linear fashion at first, at least, picking up new Temtem along the way, as well as training and evolving them. The first reason that Temtem shows an advantage over typical Pokemon games is the fact that you can do this co-op. That's right, you and a friend can team up from start to finish in almost every aspect of the game, through battles, every piece of story dialogue, every side quest, you name it. Steam says that the co-op adventure will allow you to join forces with friends anytime and work together towards your next goal. You can complete routes, face off against Temtem leaders, and fight alongside your friend in duel battles. The game showcases this to you pretty early on as you progress through the first few encounters that start as soon as you cross the path of some of these rival tamers. You'll be thrown into battle with two tamers, each with their own Temtem to summon. This mechanic works just as well if you were only playing solo, allowing you to control two Temtem at one time within your selected team of 8 Temtem, which you can swap outside of battle. Playing with your friends adds an interesting dynamic as you'll be able to strategize on combos of Temtem to use that create synergies, which can be used to pull off some really great combos. Just the act of going through a collab storyline in this type of game, to me, is a really cool feature that you can never really do in other Pokemon games from what I've heard and read. The ability to meet your friends in game brings me to reason number 2. This game deserves a better description than ripoff, and that is because it's an MMO. MMO being massively multiplayer online world. Tamers from around the world will be able to join you and you'll be able to join them and see them around you, living the adventure with you and fighting to become the best Temtem tamer ever. Sing it with me. I wanna be the very best. Like, when I visited the stress test over the weekend, there were tons of other tamers running around. Some of them were running through the long grass trying to trigger random encounters for Temtem so they can capture them, or visiting the shops and quest locations that I was when I was going through the story. And most MMOs, heavy concentration of people in an area like that would limit the ability to get certain quests done, as there was maybe a rare mob spawn that you had to kill that was being camped, or a boss to kill. Everything seemed to be instanced when it came to encounters, as well as dialogue with the quest givers and other NPCs. There will also be housing available for players to decorate in their own way. You'll be able to buy furniture and color your walls and make your house a happy home, and even invite your friends over to show off your work. You'll have your own character customization options with cosmetics like silly hats that other people will see in game, and the MMO aspect will also allow you to take part in competitive play, where you'll choose 8 Temtem through a pick and ban phase, kind of like you would see in something like League of Legends when you're building up your team. Taking turns with your rival until all decisions are made, and you'll have to end up with a squad of 5 Temtem to battle each other. MMOs are also ever-changing and alive, so new content constantly being added, like new mission events and cosmetics, as well as the Temtem themselves, are sure to keep players interested enough to keep logging in. I should mention right now that Temtem will be buy to play for $34.99 USD. That's roughly $35 in US currency. And the optional paid cosmetics will be available, which brings me to my third reason this game deserves a better label than a ripoff. Not only will Temtem be available for Nintendo Switch, PS4, and Xbox, this game is on PC for Steam. That's where I played my stress test. A Pokemon-inspired game that's actually available on PC, and that, if I may add, require light amounts of system resources and no subscription fees. No need to buy a new console or pay a monthly subscription fee for access. You'll be able to play with a resolution of 720p at 30 frames per second on a very modest machine for today's standards, with processor requirements as low as a Celeron 2.4 GHz and 4 GB of RAM, an NVIDIA GT 650, and 5 GB of hard drive space. That'll get you into the minimums, which you'll be able to run on most laptops even. Crossplay was addressed on the Kickstarter fact, and the official word is that crossplay is in their plan, but they have to talk to the major console teams to figure out what they can bring in crossplay, but they do want to implement that. Now, outside of the 3 reasons that this game shouldn't be called a ripoff, in my opinion, there's some obvious similarities, and my overall impression of the stress test, which I will say, from what I've seen from past Pokemon games, this really does look like a copy. There's so many similar elements. There are a lot of different elements naturally, what I've already talked about, and the list goes on, but it's very comparable to the Pokemon games themselves. While tamers are, in this game, a version of the trainer, and Temtem are actually the Pokemon, even going through the tall grass to find Temtem feels a lot like the type of gameplay that you get when playing other Pokemon games. I think that overall this is a good thing. While you don't get the exact Pokemon that you've learned to know and love from previous games, it adds room for new creative aspects for the same type of game, as well as a different yet familiar universe to explore. While the battle mechanics were similar, you do have some interesting strategic components in them, such as the way certain Temtem have synergies with others, and their stamina cost for all the abilities that you'll be using to fight your battles. There's a goal of 141 plus Temtem with different attributes, affinity types, and power sets, so the combinations will be numerous and they'll give strategy a really good amount of depth. Also, having to manage your meters like a limited resource throughout the battles you'll fight, instead of always just using your most powerful attack over and over again, makes the battles seem much more satisfying to win. The game had a bright and cheerful art design, as well as a nice soundtrack that played throughout exploring the overworld, as well as battling other tamers and Temtem throughout my stream. Although I got tons of questions about whether or not this was a Pokemon ripoff, the general consensus seemed to be positive about the game itself. The stress test was plagued with latency, unfortunately, as well as long queue times that was expected in an event like this. The developers were freely giving out keys to anyone that requested them in their Discord, which I believe was well over 30,000 members. And one of the recent reports showed that there was 11,000 backers pledged for an excess of $550,000 to bring this project to life on Kickstarter. The original goal was only $70,000, so it's no wonder there was some hiccups when the floodgates were opened wide. That's a whole lot of people on the servers that they were hosting, and they were trying to get an idea of what they'll need going forward. So it's important that these stress tests are done, because that's exactly what they are, tests. So I didn't really hold that against them, even though it was kind of frustrating to be able to capture the footage that you're seeing in this video today. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on Temtem, what you think about it. How do you think it compares to Pokemon? What makes it different? What you're looking forward to? Or in general, just what you think about the game itself. Especially from those of you that are old Pokemon pros. How do you look at this game in compared to the games that have recently come out, as well as the original Pokemon games that you could have played on the older console versions? I'm really looking forward to your thoughts and what you have to say about the game in the comments below. If you like these kind of videos, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get more videos just like this on upcoming MMO games. I'll be covering much more on this channel just like this. So thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off, and we'll see you next time.